Meet Stuart. Or should I change your name for the for the sake of the video? Meet Biff. Biff. So
It's $500 car.
yeah. So tell us about the car, Biff.
No, it was $500 at the mechanics, and it had been sitting there for a while, so I just went and bought it. Took it away, put a new engine in it, good as gold.
So Biff spent $3,000 on an engine that the wreckers told him had 80,000 Ks on it.
Yeah,
95,000 Ks, I stand corrected. And it runs like an absolute clock. Runs like a clock. So, you know, happy day. So this is the bumper. It's look at that, even the number plate. But that's the main thing. So Stuart got a really cheap $100 bumper from the wreckers. They're only sort of $250 for a aftermarket bumper, but postage on them is about another $200. So it's sort of a $450 or $100 for this fairly scratched up piece of crap bumper, but which requires a lot of prep work, and so I guess if you've damaged your bumper, this is a good one for you to see, because you know, this is the process for repairing it if it's not too bad. So if you've just got some nasty scratches, you want to get in and paint it up, this is the process. And I'll try and keep it short, but you know, this isn't a full tutorial. I'm not a professional. It's just how you know, you might be able to pick up a few tips. So hopefully this will just be a nice bit of education, something interesting to watch on your YouTubes. Nothing too serious, and I'll chop and change a little bit. And so anyway, this is the first step. Before I do anything else, before I get stuck in, you've got to clean the bumper. So if you've got any dirt lying around, you know, give it a wash down with soapy water, just like you'd wash a car, but use like dish soap, something that doesn't have any wax in it. And then what I've got here in my little spray bottle there is a wax and grease remover, and it's also known as prep wash in America. You can buy prep wash pretty much any hardware store or AutoZone, I guess. Yeah, so you spray that on and grab yourself a box of microfiber towels, or you know, they're about $1 each now, which is really crazy cheap considering how well they work and how much you get out of them, rather than using old rags which leave dust and dirt, or paper towel or shop towel. Honestly, a $10 box of these microfibers will save you. So you can see I'm sort of cleaning any bit of dirt, anything I can find, just getting it to a point. And even though I'm going to sand it back, by using the wax and grease remover at this point, you're not necessarily sort of scratching it back into the paint, or any impurities will be removed. And so this is a kind of, I thought a really worthy step to show. And I'm telling a great story that didn't get recorded. And in the background is my prep / spray booth in which is in a nice spot, all filtered on both sides, filtered in with 3 fans. You just see on there the fans going in, and on the other side there are see that fan just top of the screen, and that's the exit fan with all filtered as well. Next thing you got to do is mask this bad boy up. This one in particular has these plastic sections, very controversial, you got to say. That little bit of plastic was sort of not that well received on the new Foresters. The aftermarket bumpers almost always cut that out and have it all shiny, and I had considered just sanding it back and painting it, but I didn't think Biff / Stuart would appreciate that non-standard look, seeing it's such an original Forester. So as you can see, a few scratches there. I'm just masking in around the edges, using good masking tape for this too. This is proper sort of bodywork masking tape, not just your hardware store paint stuff, which you can use, but the beauty of this stuff, it's got a kind of waxy coat on it, and doesn't leave any residue. So you know, you get what you pay for on that one. Skipping forward a little bit, I've masked around the edges just to prevent the sander from hitting the plastic. And I'm into it just with, I think, probably 220 on my sander there, my really nice little 3M air sander. Sadly, my compressor isn't quite as nice, so it doesn't quite keep up with the sander, so you'll probably see I have to stop every so often and just give the compressor a chance to fill up. So I'm definitely in the market for a bigger compressor. I think 300 CFM is what these sanders use, and mine's sitting at about 195, so that's it. So you can see I'm just rubbing it back. Not only am I sort of creating a surface that paint and primers can stick to, I'm also sanding out as many of those little scratches as I can find. And it saves a lot of time having a nice sander, but you can do this all by hand if you want to. Realistically, you want to remove any shiny bits of the paint, and while you're doing that, you can actually use the material, the paint, and even the plastic of the bumper to sand down to save that need for much filling. When you go through the plastic surface though, you realize you've got a completely unprimed plastic surface, which is often how they come aftermarket anyway. So you want to make sure you not only prepare that really well, but use things like epoxy primers and things like adhesion promoters, which you'll see I use on that one. So yeah, I'm just boosting around here. I've moved over to a bit of Scotch Brite. This one is the medium. They come in different flavors. The grey is the lighter one, the burgundy color one's sort of a medium, and there's like a green which is coarse. So at this point I'm just taking all of the shine off, trying to sort of score the paint up so that the primer has something to stick to. I've sanded out a lot of the scratches that I can without going too deep, of course. You kind of there's a point where you're flattening, and yeah, so this is the process for the next bit. Just sort of take the shine off it, you know, which a lot of you like to do when the lights go down. So I've masked it all up. You don't really need to see that, and I have finished sort of sanding it back. Hit it with another wax and grease remover to clean it off again. Let it all dry out. So that's an important one too. If you're using wax and grease remover, it's good to give it a minute or two for that to evaporate. If you sort of go straight to spraying something on, that can work as a kind of resist. After cleaning it and letting it sit and masking, I've then hit it with an adhesion promoter, which is just a spray can. Just look it up if you're going to do this kind of thing. It's especially good for plastics because stuff doesn't stick. And then gone over it with a tack cloth just to take off any dust and bits and pieces, because it had sat for a little while just in my spray booth, even though it's sort of sealed up. Yeah, and then I've mixed up some primer. I think this is the I just gave it a coat of an epoxy primer. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it seals it all up and sticks like the proverbial S to the B, the blank S to the, it sticks. And then you hit it with a couple of coats of primer filler. In this case, I actually hit it with 3 coats of primer filler, would you believe, so that there was plenty to sand through because there was lots of imperfections to deal with. All right, so skip ahead a little bit, and after tracing up the primer, I've rubbed it all back. I used a 400 grit wet sand to take the primer back. I'd sprayed it with a tracer. You can still see a few little dots and a few little bits and pieces, just tiny little scratches and things, nothing too major. So I've remasked all the lights and bits and holes and things up, and I'm going to hit it with another coat of primer, maybe an epoxy primer for this one because it's plastic, just to seal everything up. And then, but quite a thin, just a sealing coat. And then I'm just going to let that cure without doing anything to that. Then I'll spray the base and clear, so that you have a nice cleaned up from scratchy town, beat up old bumper. So like things like this I've left because they're behind the number plate, because there was a lot of divots and stone chips and crap all through this, and so they've all been sanded out, which is nice. And I say all, but most. My buddy's not too keen on perfection for this, because not only that, the plastic's a little beat up anyway. So this, apart from buying a nice aftermarket new bumper, This one's just to tidy it up, so I'm not going crazy. This isn't a show car at all, you'll see once it goes on there. So yeah, spraying comes next. So as you can see, sorry about the flicker, but as you can see, put down one coat of the base and I'll hit it again. And here it is, laying down the clear coat. I've put 3 coats of base down and now I'm just tweaking the gun and laying down that nice clear coat. And this is the best bit. You've got the base, you put the clear down and boom, it looks beautiful. It's definitely the most satisfying part of doing a paint job. Look at that, like a bloody professional. It's all shiny, metallic's all even, there's no stripes or anything. Overall, a really lovely job. Although, something did happen. On my very last coat, I had a process. So I'd go around the edges, then I'd do either end of this up to that point, and then come up and down and do the middle section. But I absent-mindedly had already painted this, and I decided to come back and put down another coat right here. And as I found out as the gun came up here, there was a lot of paint already on here, and I got myself a fat run. So I've got kind of like a little sag all the way through there, and a little run there. So I can rub those out just with some 1200 and then 1500 and then a bit little 2000 or 3000 and a quick polish. And I'll have to get rid of some of these other nibs, but I'll just get this out while it's really soft. And if it doesn't work out and there's some to it, I will face back the whole thing, give another coat of clear. It's like a flow coat anyway, so it comes up really well. But I don't want to do that. I don't think it's worth it for this particular bumper. So I've seen a lot of techniques for getting rid of runs. I've seen people put filler right across it and then sand that back. And I've seen people use razor blades. But for me, it's just a case of getting a nice, fairly firm block with a bit of an arc to it. And then just, because I do get a lot of runs, you know, I'm not the best. Sometimes I'm working in cold temperatures and stuff. But basically just trying to hit just the highs by kind of holding the wet and dry off. And you see how it's just hitting the run until you get the whole area nice and flat, and then give him a good polish out, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah, so that's that. This is 1200 I actually started with instead of the 800, and then I'm going to go all the way out to 3000 and then hit it with a polisher. And hopefully that brings it all back and I don't have to flow coat the whole thing, but I will if I need to. So the weekend rolled round and we're back to where we started. So this is Biff and I trying to figure out how to remove the bumper. Now I've pulled many a Forester bumper off, but this one was a little different. There's some little plastic clips just on the sides of the bumper that just had it stumped. The normal clips were fine, and you know, I even had some nice OEM ones to swap out, but just the little top corner pin sort of in the wheel arch, I had no idea what we're looking at. So you get to watch us, get confused, try and take pictures with our phones, try and figure out. Almost got in there with certain tools and started undoing the clip that holds the bumper, but thankfully, eventually, Stewie just reefed on it and it broke the little plastic clip like you do. I don't think you can pull anything off a modern car these days without breaking one clip. So pro tip, order a bunch of clips for your car if you plan on doing some work on it, or at least be prepared to go to the body shop and get yourself some. There we go. So Stewie popped the clip, and then it was, once we figure out what it was easy enough. So we're down to brass tacks. just polishing up the headlights with a bit of headlight restorer. You know, you got to complete the whole package, and we decided that apart from switching the bumper, it was worth giving the headlights a refresh and buffing the whole car. Because there are lots and lots of little scratches. We don't think it had been properly polished pretty much since the thing was new, probably. And you know, it was a Sunday. The sun was out. We're in a good mood. You can see the smile on the little dial there. So yeah, we shone her up and then made the most of the day. Give her a quick buff. Finish it off. All masked up and nowhere to go. She is looking absolutely off the hook. Gave it a buff, cleaned it up. Before and after, just magnificent difference. She is just looking so much better. So that's that. And that's how to bring her back around. We even touched up some stone chips on the bonnet. Got some nice details going. Cleaned the headlights, buffed the whole car, and now she's looking sensational. And this video was not brought to you by Festool, but you know, hey, one day maybe.
Very nice.
So if you never want to miss one of our car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.